I love printing. I love printing. I love it. I love printing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Printer to Printer with me, Warren Werbitt, your faithful host. I hope so. I hope there's people listening today. I know there was some people listening last week because you actually reached out to me, and I encourage the reaching out to me. Today we got a special guest because all my guests are special because anybody in print is special. We have Robert Bonjour III from Offsethouse. Bonjour, Robert. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Good. So with a last name like that, should I be talking to you in French? Like, bonjour, comment ça va?
No, none of that.
That's okay. After that sentence, I'm done with the French, so we're good. Give us a little bit of a lowdown on what the Offsethouse is.
Yeah, it's a family business. Grandparents started back in 1964 out of our basement in Lawrence, Indiana.
That's it.
No, well, I mean, we're still going strong. I mean,
what are you doing? What's the gist of your basic business? A little bit of like that.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, we're more digital than we are offset anymore. So that's definitely changed. And then, the employee count's gone down quite a bit too. When we first started, we had about 40 employees because everything was done by hand. Now that's kind of shrunken down quite a bit just because of the automation that of the equipment that we've acquired over the years and even recently. But yeah, it's been good. We're having a great year so far. Clients are leaning on us, and we got other people reaching out to see if we can help. So feeling pretty good about 2024 for sure.
Okay, nothing. I can't ask for any more from anybody than when they say I'm feeling pretty good about 2024. So if you're looking through your business, what's the main core of it?
We do a lot around event-based marketing. So we got a lot of people that kind of lean on us. We're known for catering to smaller organizations, whether it be nonprofits, those types of things. And it's just leads into them trusting us and referring business over to us. And that's kind of how it's expanded for us personally and myself in the past 10 years. A lot of the people are finding us through referral, which has been good. But then there's some other things that we brought on at the end of last year that kind of cater a little bit more towards high-end invites, unique things like that. We bought a digital die cutter. We bought some new digital presses.
Oh, nice.
Things.
What kind of digital die cutter?
So this is a Synajet MT 906. It's a graphic.
I know the 907. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything.
Yeah. So it's a fun piece of equipment. It definitely cleans up a lot of the stuff that we were doing by hand and makes that a lot more automated as far as the proofing process, which is
probably cleaner too.
Oh yeah, very much so. We don't have to trace little magenta and cyan lines with the back of a razor blade or an X-Acto knife. So it's helpful and definitely more efficient.
Oh yeah, for sure. Love it. And what kind of digital presses are you running?
So we just acquired two C14000s. Those are Konica Minolta presses.
You'd think if it was a C, it would be for Canon, and they would have theirs as KM.
Yeah.
Just saying. I don't understand why people make some of the decisions, but how do you find the presses?
They're very quick in comparison to what we had, and some of the other things that we were fighting issues with, whether it be banding, thinner type, not necessarily being super tight, so to speak, just because of our old presses they were putting out near the image.
What were your old presses, just out of curiosity?
So we've been with Konica Minolta for quite some time. So we had, I believe, they were the 6080s, I want to say, or C6080 is how they go.
Is that back from like the 90s?
No. They were probably about 5 years old by the time we were done with them, as far as when they were released. I feel like the 14,000 was kind of the step up on the production aspect when we invested into those. But the volume just kind of outpaced those machines and so that's why we had to upgrade and go a little bit quicker.
And did you upgrade, like when you upgraded, you would own the equipment already?
We always do everything through a lease. we have a good relationship with the manufacturer that we're working with. Matter of fact, they're very proactive about how we work through our issues and those types of things, which is obviously extremely important, and your vendor, but, more so kind of strategizing some things that, might bottleneck us. So
Like what?
think about like imposition, training, those types of things. We have two gals that are younger in the pre-press role. They graduated from a local art school here in town. And they've done an awesome job with the understanding of Adobe and all that other stuff. And they're real color critical. So, with them, we're trying to teach them how to kind of pivot from our main digital press operator. Just because of the size of our shop, if somebody goes on vacation, we need to keep moving on it. And we want to move it in a way that's not going to be frustrating, because we obviously want to make sure we're doing the best work we can, even if it's supplemental, so to speak, as far as the operator.
Yeah, we used to, I used to want to cross train everybody on everything that they were open to. So I had a guy on a 56-inch press knew how to fold on the folder, right? Or another guy on the press knows how to cut on the cutter, on the guillotine. It's always good, for the smaller shops when you don't have full rotation come holiday time and you're not stuck. And it's really good actually for the people, because the more they know, the more valuable they are. I don't know if they think that way. Some just might think, oh, he's teaching me more so I could work more. But when they work more, they do get paid more. So it's not like it's anyone's. These days, I don't think people take advantage of people. It's everybody wins, right?
Yeah, it's important for them to kind of understand past, just the computer side of what we do. And even with digital output, we're bringing them over to the digital die cutter so they can learn that machine, where we'll bring them over to the guillotine just to talk through, hey, this was off register, or hey, here's some things that we need to look for, just to educate them on it, because, troubleshooting is the most important thing you really have to know in this industry.
You almost got to write down all the little things that happen along the way that need adjustments, so that when you come back, because you're just going back and, doing the same adjustments. So I'm going to go off track here now, because I've been to your place and it's pretty cool and everything. But, you work with your old man.
Yep.
And don't worry, I'm not going to throw him under the table. But no. The reason I'm bringing it up is that I'm going to bring it more up in general is just family stuff, because family dynamics of working together are really not easy all the time.
Yep.
Right? Period. So, how is it working with your father?
So, a little background. I started back in production. My dad told me to talk too much, so that's why he threw me in sales.
You're killing me already. Stop. Yeah.
The whole thing with it is when I first started in sales, I was, kind of trying to make the customer as happy as possible. And I wasn't doing a good job of making both sides of the transaction happy, both us in production and same thing with the customer. So, what I learned over time is basically, if it's an issue, we need to talk through it, those types of things. But forcibly trying to change things is just not the right way of going about it. I'm sure many of us have been told that when we were younger, but it's honestly the truth. The biggest component of us working more intact with each other has been actually trying to grow the business outside of the norm, and just kind of forcing us in a situation where we need to start being more proactive with some of the things that are starting to come our way. And then that just kind of gives us an opportunity to work more in cohesion. And, it probably took me, 6 years in sales just to figure that out, that, hey, your job is to sell stuff, not to try and change how we go about running the business. And, I work with a personal coach and all the other stuff, and that's constantly what he's reminding me of, is like staying in your lane and those types of things. But, for the most part, yeah, dad's going to be hard on me every now and again, or every day. It just kind of depends. I know he's prepping me for the bigger role that I'm wanting to fill into, when he decides to finally retire. But, I'm not in the biggest hurry to do that, just because I'm really enjoying what we're doing right now. The capabilities and all the other stuff that we brought on just kind of get to show me that, hey, we're investing more into the business and to our customer. And it's exciting because I'm attached to some of that growth. But it's extremely rewarding at the end of it. We all go home. We're still father and son, but at work, it's...
Do you live in the same house?
No.
Okay. Makes it a little harder, I think, when you're in a family business living in the house, right? Because then everything's just always there.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of a challenge.
No, but you know what? But then that sounds good, because I speak with a lot of people. At one point I was working with, whoops, drop the pen. But at one point I was working with, let's take another one. At one point I was working with the old man. And although I know intentions were good, and he was kind of working for me, but I know intentions were good, it was just brutal. Right. And I guess it's all payback for everything that kind of happens. Because I even just, with my own son, who doesn't work, works on his own and does his own thing. But even in the house, I remember I used to say to the kids sometimes, as long as you're living under my roof. And then I stop and I go, oh my God, my parents said that to me. I don't want to say that either. But the dynamics of, working together, from talking to people, it just can be tough. I like that you said that, he's kind of grooming you going forward. So you're aware of some of the things when he's a little tough, that it's not so personal, although maybe a little, because there's always a little bit, right? But I guess sometimes fathers see in us, what they maybe didn't like about themselves, and they don't want to see that happening either, right? Does he let you make decisions on your own, or is everything needed for a communal?
So the new business that I personally bring in, that's kind of all up to me. It's ran through on everything from qualifying the customer to making sure they're going to be a good fit. Obviously we need to make sure they're going to pay their bills and be easy to work with. So I really kind of headline that part of it. But then in the other sense too is I have some responsibilities for other parts of the team, just to kind of work through efficiencies, right? So let's say we have a project where we've kind of fumbled a little bit on getting a proof out, or something was missed, or something of those occasions, trying to put best practices into place, kind of running through those, getting an opinion on it. I don't get to make all the decisions. I just get to influence a majority of them. But I'm okay with that.
Hey, influencing sure takes a lot of pressure off the final decision.
Sure. Yeah. People want to have their decision and their ideas get supported, right? So I found, the best way about going about it is what do we think about this? And once it's painful enough that we need to make action on it, because we see the same vision, it's pretty impactful what can happen with that. Plus, I think a lot of our team likes to get to see that aspect of the business as well.
And speaking of your team, how is your team? And so I've seen some cases where, say, father-son, a little tough, and then some of the people in the place feel the toughness of it.
Sure.
Are your people good with you guys? Are you guys good with them? Because you got to be careful. Today more than ever, we always got to be careful with all kinds of stuff, because you don't want to and let anybody go like a little wonky on you and get all crazy.
Yeah, we there's right times and right places for everything, right?
You're so politically correct.
And yeah. So the whole thing with it is we're all human, right? We all make mistakes. We also, might have a poor reaction at times. The whole thing with it is at the end of the day, as long as we can kind of come back together and say, this is what happened. This is what we're going to learn from it and move on from it. I'm kind of okay with those things happening. Now, obviously, we can't just start having a screaming match in the front lobby because, he changed the paper on me because, it was more effective and my
yeah, I've had those in the early days.
My client wanted a Class A sheet, but,
we decided she's not getting one.
Yeah. So, the whole thing.
By the way, that's like old school print, where like the print owner would just do what he wanted when he wanted. The customer would say thank you, even though they weren't happy, and they would pay the bill on time.
Well, that's important, is paying the bill on time.
No, those were the good old days when we, the printer, were in charge.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, a lot of the paper suggestions that we're doing is our suggestions. We have our clients anymore lean on us more for the paper stock than themselves. Just because we know we buy it, right? It's like, hey, if you want to put it on this stock, you're going to order a full carton from mill, and some of those run sizes just don't make sense.
I have a question on paper.
Okay.
I refer to the old days, but the old days aren't that old. But maybe pre-COVID, a lot of customers, agencies, and/or regular customers would spec specific types of paper, coated, offset, etc. And then I started to find in the last few years that's not happening much. Maybe from the top agencies because they think a little differently, but the average customer doesn't really care what kind of coated it is or what kind of offset it is. Would that be a fair statement today?
It's a fair statement, but I think they don't care because you have the trust in the relationship would be the why in that. But, most of the time we'll say, hey, we're going to throw this on an uncoated sheet because we can tell that you guys are going to be writing information on it. There's not a heavy amount of coverage. So we start to educate them that way. The other thing that we've done is we created little stock booklets that has all our house stock in it. So then we can kind of have an educated conversation with the customer without them being overwhelmed with, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll just go with your opinion. Just because we want them to be the most efficient partner we can. So if we can kind of teach them how to buy, it makes our life easier, makes their life easier. And then we kind of just, move on from there. Plus it brings them more value, being in their position because, hey, I bought print for 2 years working with this company, so I know how to spec out jobs.
What about your competition? And I ask that now because when we're talking paper, this really used to get me. I used to be a guy, I'm still a guy, but I used to be the one, like I was a Sappy person. I love Sappy. I love their books. I only wanted Sappy. All the brands ran well. All the brands dried well. Because there's a lot of paper out there that runs and then doesn't dry or problematic on the press. And I guess I was always surprised at all the printers that would buy that paper and come in a lot cheaper than me on the job. And I know that ain't running well. And I know that's sitting overnight because it isn't drying with aqueous just because of what it is. And I'm like, why are all these printers recommending that paper? I always wanted a paper that would run, that you could, take, dry, turn, flip, cut, fold, stitch, send out. Now for some of the folks, if you have like the new, UV and the HUV, it's pretty good. But a lot of printers still don't know what they're doing, I think. And that causes a lot of the problem with the, with some of the pricing some people give.
There's your paper houses and then there's your second houses. It just kind of all depends on the job. I will be transparent saying we also like Sappy. EuroArt's been a house sheet for a long time. But the whole thing with it is availability was one thing that was kind of a thing during COVID. So there was that. But then more or less, we've kind of just stuck with the vendors and the paper that we're familiar with and we're happy with and all the other stuff. Now, if somebody wants to spec out a specialty stock or a class A stock or whatever, we can do that. If they want to move on to something that's more economic, we can do that as well. We're pretty transparent on the paper that we're using because, if it does go out for bid, we want to give them an apples to apples perspective because, we want them to make an informed decision on what they're buying. If it is all on price, it's all on price, but at least what the apples to apples is on the product.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd like to educate some printers out there as to how they run their businesses and being smart.
Yeah, I mean, you put crap into the product, you get a crap product. We jokingly say polishing turds is something that we kind of do just based on, some of the files that we get anymore. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Everyone's a graphic designer. Everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let me ask you this question. What do you love most about print?
This is going to sound really corny, but I like, my dad told me when I first got into this position, your job is to make people look good. And I focused on that. And it's been extremely rewarding. Some of our larger core accounts have been, based on me running around town chasing down $200, $300 jobs. And I know it, it took a whole lot of time, but that you put in the effort towards the customer, the customer is going to want to take care of you. And I just learned to enjoy growing the business, being able to support all of our employees, and just kind of develop into, man, when I was in high school, there is no way in hell I would think that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So, to talk to myself 20 years ago would have been real interesting and saying, bro, you're never going to believe this, but
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, when I got into print, I was selling fabric before, and it was a whole little slew of things, but then I got into it. And once I was in it, first of all, I never wanted to work in the back. I never wanted to get dirty, right? I didn't like ink under my nails, although sometimes I had it. Although I do remember licking my first $1,500 mail order job in the envelopes at the end of the day. I won't lick another envelope. But the one thing that always got me about print was every single person that I meet is a potential customer. And it doesn't matter whether they think they buy print or they don't buy print. Everyone in business has a use for a printer, an invitation, a sign, a brochure, a mailing, a package, an announcement. It doesn't matter. And people say to me, oh, I don't buy that much. I say, you don't understand. I don't care how much you buy. I just love the fact that you're buying print and I'd like to have it.
It's really interesting how fast, a prospect wants to qualify themselves on how much they print. And then sometimes when you get them to start talking about it, then they realize how much print they actually do.
Well, it depends on how people value much print.
Sure.
If someone says, oh, I spent $250,000, it's not that much because their business is $40 million and it's the small. I'm like, well, you know what? Then just give it to me and don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah, that sounds like a win-win.
And selling print, there's nothing better, like I say, because everyone's a potential customer. But I remember once when I started off and I'm out for lunch with somebody and we go to a restaurant, and I think it was really a while ago because the .com was booming then. And I remember walking by a table and I remember hearing the two guys talking about the business and then what they needed, and they needed to do this, print and mailing. And so on the way by, I stopped by and I'm like, listen, I apologize. I said, but I heard the word print and I perked up. So I just want to give you my card and I'm walking away. But if there's ever anything you need or anything I could do, love for you to call me.
Yeah.
I then go sit down at the table. The person I'm with is like, what is wrong with you? Right? I go, what do you mean what's wrong? It's my business. I'm doing business, a lunch business. Why not? Right? I got to pay for your lunch. And then I hear them talking, and then I hear them really talking about business and how bad it is and the burn rate. So on the way out of the restaurant, the card was still on the table. I walked by and I grabbed the card and I'm like, well, I don't think you're going to be needing my card much longer. And I kept, excuse me, I just kept walking out. But selling print gives you the opportunity to talk to anybody about anything.
Oh, yeah.
Right? An idea, suggestion. And if you can't talk to everyone about print, then you probably shouldn't be selling print.
Yeah. It's there's plenty of ways to help people through a printed product, and either buy it or you don't. You know what I mean? You either want it or you don't.
Yeah, but what's really amazing is all the people that say to me, "Print is dead, isn't it?" And I'm like, I don't want to swear everywhere I go, but I'm like, are you out of your mind? I said, buddy, let me take you through your day. I said, you wake up in the morning and you got books on the side of your bed. Well, they're printed. Then you drag your sorry ass into the bathroom, right? And the packaging of the toilet paper is printed, but then your toothpaper box, then your toothpaste comes in, your toothbrush comes in, your deodorant, all printed. Then you drag into the kitchen and you go put your, I don't drink coffee, but I'm assuming your coffee pot in the machine. It's printed. The bread is printed. The butter's printed. You haven't even left the house and you got 90 minutes of full print on. Get in your car and everything's printed in the car, plus the brochure, the magazine, right? I go, I'm like, it's only 9 o'clock. And then the guy's like, oh, you know what? He goes, you're right. I go, the only thing that's dead is letterhead, right? Because even though everyone says, I don't need a business card, you got to go to a show with a business card.
Yeah.
You got to give someone an impression. And the truth is, people that give me cards sit on my desk for a little while at least before I either put them in an elastic in a drawer and don't look at them or toss them in the recycle bin. But I've looked at them long enough and I know whose number I have, and the ones that are important make it into my my Outlook file.
Sure.
You know, I'll even tell you Vistaprint. I mean, Vistaprint has to be selling billions of business cards every year. They're just, and they fit a good place because they've taken that work from us, but that's the work we didn't want anyways.
Yeah.
But now there's a whole slew of us that just bitch about not having it. Right? So it's kind of that wish and want game.
Yeah.
So, you know, but like there's a place for everybody in our world. But I think print is beyond the best thing ever. Right? It elicits emotion. Listen, I go to the bathroom and I'd rather have a Bass catalog than my phone. I can't fold pagers over on my phone, and there's really nothing worse than when you drop the phone in the water. And I don't care if anyone wants to admit it or not. It happens to a lot of us. Right?
I can't say that happened to me in quite some time.
I didn't say when. I just said it's happened, you know, and you just hope the water's clean. Otherwise, you got to get a new phone.
Yeah.
But print is absolutely by far number one on my books. You know, even the clothes, the labels are printed everywhere. It's printed.
It's pretty fun getting to see how some of this stuff gets done too. You know, that's, you know, I geek out on it. You know, I'm constantly trying to educate myself on how things work. And
my favorite show is how they make that.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I actually am watching not long ago, and they had a scene on printing.
Yep.
I think they need to update it a little, but it was pretty cool just the same, you know?
Yeah, that guy's got that narrator guy cracks me up. I mean,
yeah, what a job that is. So let me ask you, just before I cut you off, what's in store for Offsethouse? Any direction you're headed? Any purchases you're making?
Digital B2 press. It's something that I think more and more is starting to be more relevant in our world, and I know that's kind of a very active thing that I'm working towards. You know, our press is getting older. It's not getting any newer. Our run links are getting smaller. So, you know, there's some things where, you know, make ready and those costs don't necessarily make sense. And we don't need to run 18,000 sheets an hour. Let alone, why would you when it's a 500 sheet or a 2,000 sheet run?
Well, the truth is you're going to run full out, because at the end of the day, when you say, I'll just correct you, because when you say that, and your pressman on 1,000 jobs is doing that, at the end of the year, it's 15, 20, 30, 40, 80 hours on those little increments that he banged it out.
That's fair.
And
Yeah.
I'll just, you know what, on that, I remember I went to a CEO forum once, and it was with Bob Rosen. And I remember they had a speaker in there, and he was talking to all the owners about, you know, their press room. And the guy asked the question, who runs your press room? So, you know, everyone's hands, I got a plant manager and I got this. And the guy's shaking his head and he goes, no. He goes, you're pressmen. He goes, you guys have presses that go 13, 14,000 sheets an hour, and he's at 7,000 to 8,000 on average all the time. And he said, that's wrong. It should be running at full speed. You go out and they do it, whatever the reason. Anyways, I go back to the office right after that conference. I go right into the press room. I go right up to the front of the press. I go look at the speed, and what's he doing? 7,500 sheets on a 7,000 sheet run. And I say to him, why? And he says, right? So I said, okay, but watch. I took the dial and I put it up to 13.5, and I go, that's your new target. 3 days later, it's back to 75.
Yeah.
But there is some madness, you know, to doing and keeping to run like that. But I definitely would agree on B2 press and, you know, make ready. Listen, I'm good with buying any piece of equipment that anybody thinks they want. What I'm not good with anymore is a printer not doing his homework, not making sure that it's going to work, not just talking to the OEM who's going to give him their ROI version of how it's going to work, because their ROI version is completely flawed and they could all fight with me, but it's all skewed to them.
Oh yeah.
Right? Kind of like industry news when you pay, someone to write about you. So I say what I want because nobody pays me to write about them.
Yeah.
But, which is really important today for the printer, particularly the smaller to mid-sized printer who's limited on human resources and financial resources.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So that's my thing these days is I get really mad. I did the last buy it and they will come. And I bought a 56-inch press for $5 million right when the world was shaky. They didn't come so fast.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much fun. So if I could save somebody that angst and that heart palpitation, right? Then that's what it is. So do your homework. And you know what? You could even hire me to help you do your homework, and that would just make us even better friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But all kidding aside, do the homework. I do think that's definitely a good way to go, especially for your size shop.
They're pretty cool machines, man. I mean, when we first linked up, going to that HP show, that was fun.
Yeah, and what I like about digital equipment is like your entire pre-press team could run the press, and you could teach. When I was at a show recently, there was some operator on the machine. Someone was chatting with him, and he's like, "Yeah, 6 months ago," he goes, "I was working at McDonald's." An older gentleman, and so opportunity is great.
Yeah, no, and those machines are incredible. I mean, the amount of automation.
The equipment today is almost fun.
When has it not been fun?
When you're cranking the press and you're making dials and you're putting the ink in with like a spatula. I think if they can get their machines to work off like an Xbox handheld, right? Piece?
Yeah.
What do they call those handhelds?
Controller?
Yes. Imagine that, walking around the shop running off a handheld controller.
I've heard of those on like a me and Roland. There's a guy that they had like a little tablet that could go around, and
I guess it didn't go so well. I don't hear so many man Rolands out there.
Yeah,
I can make that joke.
There's a big one in town with a foil unit on it over at Litho. You should go check that out if you haven't seen it.
Oh, I've been to Litho. They're great.
Oh yeah, good people.
He has, or they, because it's many people, they have the best operation in the world. Have print sheets, maybe foil, maybe not, and ship them out to their customers who laminate them and mount them and do whatever they do. And they have every sheet size under the sun.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very...
Except the half size. 40 and up. 40 up to, I think, either 81 or 73.
That's some big presses. I didn't even know they made them that big.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Cool. Anyways, enough about them. We're here to promote you, not them right now. If he wants me to promote him, he can call me. No, but all kidding aside, always good and great to chat with you. Really like what you do at the place, and love the fact that you're like a young guy in the business who has a really good handle on what's going on and a good outlook. Even dealing with your old man, like you, I know that you respect him and you respect the situation. And I hope he listens to this and gives you a raise and some more shares after.
I will report back happily for it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like I tell all the people when I call the 1-800 numbers when you're dealing with service. At the end of the call, I always say to the person, "Is this call being recorded?" And they go, "It is." And I go, "Well, you did such a great job. I'm going to recommend a week's more vacation and a 20% increase in raise and pay. So please have your manager listen to the recording. Have your father watch the video."
Will do, man. No worries.
Cool. Everybody else out there, as always, thank you so much for listening, and get to meet another person in our industry who's a solid. If you want to be on my podcast, if you know anyone who does but's afraid to ask, call me and I'll call them. Everybody else, Warren Werbitt, what they think, and I love print.